able to give students a much better education. After all, isn't this our job? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. I believe I called before.
Madam Chair?
I took the film, and yes, of
Thank
course.
you very much. A very impassioned speech from a dedicated, loving mom. And for anyone listening, let alone those watching, it's very passionate. It's very touching, and in a good way. And I commend you. My question, I guess, for us, and maybe for the superintendent through his budget person, is maybe a clarification on the 2006 6% and how it went down to 1.3, and whose idea that was and who controlled it. Because I know that my wife faced the same thing, and along with her, all of her friends, with that change in that percentage for retirement, right? And the second one, if you have any idea about the COLA piece, I would really appreciate that, sir.
Yeah, I would ask Ms. Martet to address both issues.
Through the chair. The cost of living adjustment that retirees was afforded was 3%. State law changed to make it a percentage based on the number of years of service you had eligible for retirement at the time the law changed. So it was a sliding scale. Some people were as low as 0.8. In my case, I'm 1.15 because of my years of service. So it's a sliding scale. But again, the important part of that is it's a state law. This board had no control over that change. As far as I know, sir, COLA has not been 6%. It certainly was not in 2006.
I don't think that was the 6% maybe you were speaking about was in the drop issue. That was the, yeah, I think that's what she was speaking about, the drop issue, and why people, if they waited too long, it would only be getting 3%. If you could speak to that.
Again, sir, through the chair, that was a change in state law, not controlled by this board.
That's why I started by saying that this
Yeah. So, Mom, if I might, I missed mine. Just on those two issues, I really hope that it helps you understand that there are some things that we do control, and there are some things that are controlled to us. That 6% that you mentioned, and if we can just agree on those two items, that 6% was nothing that we had any control over, nor the COLA on the sliding scale. And, that helps people who listen, who are not in the teaching profession, who are not in either the budget profession. And so, those that listen maybe now understand about those numbers. Okay? That's all I wanted to touch on right now. And I thank you for, I heard everything. I take good notes too. But I want to thank you for being here for that.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
If I may, I think there were a couple of other issues that Ms. Marte and Mr. Dodgers wanted to clarify in light of some of the comments that were made, but it's your discretion as to what
I would
now
like
then.
to hear him, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
One, I'll tee it up. I mean, it is true that prior to a number of years ago, the employees under the Florida retirement system did not make a contribution towards their own retirement, and since that law changed, everybody at all levels, including the people here, began to make that contribution as a state mandate. So again, as Dr. Feldman said, that was a state decision that became statutorily approved and implemented across the board. With that said, I'd like Ms. Marte to address some of the issues that were mentioned, and Mr. Dodros.
Through the chair?
Yes, ma'am.
There was a comment made that teachers' paychecks were cut. In 2008, by mutual agreement with the United Teachers of Dayton, in fact, all of our unions, there was a 2-day furlough that all employees willingly accepted as a result of what was the height of the economic recession that hit this community. As the board promised, that money was repaid in full to every employee in July of 2009. So there were no cuts to employees' paychecks at least since 2007 or 2008. Again, we talked about health insurance, and I don't know if Madam Chair wants me to clarify that again today. The current health insurance program affords every employee a free option for medical care. The increase in cost for medical care this year is projected to be 1.7% or $6 million. The board has voted to absorb that cost and not pass it on to employees. Employees who received raises as a result of raises may have moved to an additional salary band. To mitigate that cost increase this year, the board agreed to absorb an additional $6 million of health insurance costs that would have been reflected in increases in dependent care. As a result of the board's action, in fact, 80% of our employees who opt to take dependent care will pay less than they paid in the current plan. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very
Through the
much.
chair, Mr. Dodros now, and his negotiating team.
Yes, Mr. Dodros, sir.
Yes, through the chair, we would like to clarify and highlight 3 areas that were mentioned. We have here our labor attorney that was involved in the negotiations, Chris Kurtz, and also our chief negotiator, James Hodge. In particular, we want to discuss and clarify the issue of grandfathered schedule versus performance pay. That came up in the conversation. And also the benefits as we move forward of the min-max salary schedule that we're moving into. So with that, I will start with Chris Kurtz.
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, first off, I need to mention that everything we did with these salary schedules was negotiated as required by law with the United Teachers of Dade. We conducted numerous bargaining sessions in the sunshine and, pursuant to law, agreed on a salary schedule that comprised both a grandfathered and a performance salary schedule. And that, we call that the min-max salary schedule. What would happen in the future is that any increases based on performance will be negotiated with the United Teachers of Dade every year as required by law. And based on those, a number of factors that we'll be using, it'll be determined whether teachers are effective or highly effective. And of those teachers that have continuing contracts, they had the option to remain on the grandfathered schedule, which is the same as the performance schedule, but not go into the performance salary part of the schedule. That will be their option. We're not forcing anybody to do that who have continuing or professional contracts. So to sum up, we have one salary schedule which was negotiated that will continue to be both the grandfathered schedule and the performance salary schedule.
Through the chair.
Yes.
As we have spoken before, just want to reiterate that 86% of teachers under this contract received a salary increase equal to or greater than the previous step schedule. The remaining 14% received a substantial raise. It wasn't their expected raise, it wasn't promised, but it was expected because it was the existing salary schedule. But just 86%, again, received at or above. The reason why we did move to it is, as Mr. Kurtz spoke to, is Florida Statute 1012.22 talks about performance pay. If we did not move to this, we'd have to abide by state statute, and the majority of the funds for raises would go to annual contract teachers on performance, which is a small amount. It's about 3,000 teachers, leaving very limited money for the remaining 17,000 teachers. So this was negotiated with UTD. Again, these are expectations that the step schedule had. It wasn't guaranteed to them, But we negotiated this annual with UTD, and we believe that we reached an agreement that was great, was the best thing for the teachers.
Thank you.
If I may just ask staff very quickly for an additional clarification. Based on the agreement and the vote that took place, what were the results of that vote in terms of percentage?
Percentage of UTD vote?
Yes.
I believe it was 61%.
61 to 39%.
Correct.
My understanding, and again, I listened to all the commentary and to the individuals, and I appreciate Dr. Feldman's comment. I think everybody here, whether on the board or on staff, support staff, principals in schools, and I think quite frankly, everybody across the state and the country can unify and say teachers don't get paid enough. And we say that all the time. We also need to be honest and say, let's compare certainly average teacher salary and the distribution in Miami-Dade compared to the rest of the state. And I think we've gone through that analysis. And the variance between Miami-Dade and the rest of the state is not that great. Why? Because after the funding adjustments, the per pupil funding is virtually the same for all kids across the state. So basically all districts have on average, plus or minus a couple $1,000s, the same salary for teachers. With that said, the beginning teacher salary in Miami-Dade, as well as the average salary for teachers in Miami-Dade, is higher than the state average. We are in the upper quartile. And I'd like Ms. Marte to address this issue. And yes, we need to recognize that since about 2008, we went through 6 to 7 very, very difficult years of economic recession. But even during those years, if you take a look at it cumulatively, the average salary in terms of percentage for teachers in Miami-Dade went up. We never went back with the exception of those 2 days that were negotiated to avoid truly calamitous conditions, and this was across the country. We opted to do that rather than firing teachers as many other districts did. So we did the right thing. So, Ms. Marte, would you please clarify the last point?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Sir, you are correct. The district ranks above the state average in teachers' salary. In fact, it ranks way above average. The district ranks 5th among the 67 counties in terms of highest salaries, despite a rank that makes us 43 in funding as it relates to EFP dollars. You want me to repeat that one more time?
Yes.
We rank 5th in highest teachers' salaries in the state, despite ranking 43rd in the amount of FEFP funding we get from the state.
So, Ms. Marte, one last question. Mr. Montes de Oca is our chief auditor who is independent from this staff. Are those verifiable numbers? Because I see some individuals who no doubt in a little bit will come and speak, will say no. And at some point, the truth is the truth. Are these verifiable numbers, Mr. Montes de Oca?
Through the chair, yes, they can be verified.
They are the truth. I do not recall, and I've been here as superintendent since 2008 with this board, ever a reduction in salary for employees. I can tell you who incurred reductions in salary: administrators. I can tell you that we reduced administrative spending by over 50%. I can tell you that we reduced by over 50% the number of administrators that used to work downtown. I can tell you that we're about to close one administrative building down. But that is one fact. That does not mean that teachers should not make more money. We all want that. And that is why, since 2008, I'm going to come back to this, because I'm going to be asking what is the total percent increase during those years. And I have to say, for those teachers who, when Mr. Hodge said 86% may equal to or more than they would have made, that is the truth. I understand if somebody is one of those 14% that was 1 year away or 2 years away from those two big steps, that may be a heartbreaking moment. But either there is rule